Welcome back, everyone. I hope that gave you a chance just to catch up with one another. It's been a little bit of a while since our last webinar. So this is the third in a series of three, all looking at how we might do mission with or for older people, and that means third and fourth age people who are either still able to go to church, or are now housebound, or are in care homes, or your local community that are not churchgoers. So we've hopefully covered the whole gamut, and we started with how you might do a community audit to find out who's in your community, both within the church walls and without. And then we looked at how you might ground truth ideas. How do you know if the ideas that you come up with are going to work, and how might you then prioritise those ideas? So today is around about partnership working. When I work with churches that are looking at their mission and how they might do that, the question that always comes up is, we can't do this, we can't do that because we don't have enough volunteers, we're too old, or our church is too small, or the people in our church have families and they're too busy. You decide on what the reason is, but there are always, all throughout, we can't do this because we don't have volunteers. But you see, it doesn't say anywhere in our work with our churches that we have to do all the work ourselves. And I'm constantly surprised by the fact that people, certainly in my experience, never think beyond their church walls. If they're wanting to run a coffee morning, they do it themselves. If they want to do a lunch club, they do that themselves. If they're wanting to do a toddler club, or in our instance, that might be an older person's singles club or an older person's gathering, whatever it is, they always think they have to do it themselves, and that's not the case. Often there are a lot of things like this that you can still do even with a tiny church or not a lot of people. All you have to start thinking about is who can help you. So coffee mornings, to take it as an example, that you might want to talk to your local scouts group if there is one, or maybe you have a church lads or lasses brigade at your church who might also want to do something like that. And particularly with scouts, if it's something that sits within the badges that they need to earn, or if it's something whereby they and you can share the profits together, if there are profits, then there's a little bit of back scratching both ways. But it's always worthwhile thinking about who might help you. A lot of churches are beginning to think now, if they want to run a cafe, they might work with the Alzheimer's Society or Dementia Society to help run a cafe, rather than to try and do it themselves. So there's lots of different ways and means, but it's not always that straightforward. There are pitfalls, it can be quite difficult, but it can also be a joy when it comes to the point at which you can begin to work together and see whatever it is that you're doing in partnership begin to flourish. But churches that have never worked in partnership before probably don't know where to start, probably thinking, oh well, if there's something that we want to do, well, who on earth might we work in partnership with? Where do we go? Well, some of that will come out of your community audit, that you will know where there are groups and organisations close to your church that might be able to help you to run things. And then there are things around, well, how do you negotiate? If, say, you wanted to run a cafe, you might think, well, there might be local people through our local job centre who are trying to set up a cafe of their own. Maybe they have a coffee cart or something like that, that you could ask to come onto your church premises and let them give the coffee out. I mean, it has to be paid for, obviously, but it means then the coffee cart is running your coffee morning and not you. Again, it's a little bit of back scratching, very easy to set up, but there might be teething problems. What does the coffee cart want in order for them to find this worthwhile? What is it that you need them to do to be able to serve your people well? Those kinds of little things. Gosh, how do we start? We're hoping that the two speakers we have today will be able to help you along the lines with that. But what I would like you to think about first is think about your own context, your own church. What are the things that you think your church might like to do in terms of mission with or for older people? And where might you go in your context to find someone or an organisation who might be able to help you who is not already inside your church? Would it be Scouts? Would it be the Alzheimer's Society? Would it be the local enterprise scheme? All sorts of different places like that perhaps, but you know your context and I don't. So we're going to put you in breakouts now for around about 10 minutes or so, and we're a little bit ahead of time, so that's good. But we'll give you 10 minutes to talk together and just chew the fat. What can you do in your context that you might need help with, and where might you go for that? So Catherine's going to put you in 2 breakouts, have a chat together. Well, welcome back everyone. I hope that was a fruitful discussion and that you had a chance to just biff bat a few ideas together. So I'd like to welcome Stephen today. Stephen is based at Wesley Hall in Crooks, and I believe, if I'm right in thinking this, he has been working with Shemaine with regards to the running of their coffee morning. So their coffee morning has been partnered up with an external organisation. So Stephen's going to tell us about why they looked for a partner, how they looked for a partner, what were the pitfalls of that, what worked well, what didn't, etc. So we're not sugarcoating this. It's always good to know what to look out for if you want to do a good job. But also the good bits too. There are always gifts in everything. So I'm going to pass you over to Stephen, and I'm sure he will give us a little bit more context and tell us about his partnership working experience at Wesley. Thanks, Stephen. Over to you.
It's nice to be with you. Yeah, I mean, it's the lunch club that we're partnering with MHA Communities. It's more than just a coffee morning. I think what I'd like to do is just go back a bit about over the history of our kind of mission to older people at Wesley Hall, and how we've looked at kind of sharing food and doing activities as a way of working with older people in the community, and the fact that historically the kind of Crooks area was quite villagified. I mean, I've been to Wesley Hall for the last 76 years, and my parents were there before me, and my grandparents were there before them. So we have a long history there, and it's amazing how when I look back at the lunch club in earlier form, I would know everybody more or less who went to it. I would know the name, and I'd know all the family. And I think what we've seen in the last few years is a kind of change in dynamics of the older population. I mean, Crooks, from being a very kind of stable community in probably 20 years ago, started getting a lot of students in. So the kind of dynamics of the whole area kind of changed. But Wesley Hall still kind of looked to providing food, to working with older people in our community. And when I look back, I can remember the original lunch club starting at Wesley Hall in the early 1990s. And we had a lady called Iris Nettleship who ran that, and she was kind of did it on her own, more or less. She was very good. But I mean, she didn't do the cooking on the premises. She brought school meals in. So I don't know which school it was, but a school meals provider came in and brought that. So that kind of restricted to how they could meet and when they could meet, because you know, the school meals weren't available in holiday periods. So now I started volunteering for Iris in 2001. I was a minibus driver at the time, so just 21 years doing this. Might get it right soon, so we started there. By this time, Iris was well into her 80s and decided quite rightly that she'd probably had enough of all this, and so she decided to pull out, and we were left then with, how do we continue? Can we do this? Because she'd been the kind of linchpin of all this, and you know, everybody looked to her to kind of organise it and get the meals sorted, get the transport sorted, and that. But we were very fortunate at the time. We're probably looking around about 2005. That at Wesley Hall, we had a couple of our members were actual chefs at a hospital, and they were prepared to give up their day off to come and cook for us. So at that time, we were blessed by having two properly trained chefs who knew what they were doing, how to cook. They got all their kind of level 2 qualifications, everything. That it was a real kind of godsend that these people were available to us. And as I say, they were willing to give up the day off. We also were fortunate at the time to have, quite a few people who would give up the time to volunteer driving. We didn't have a minibus, but we had drivers who were prepared to go out and pick people up. And at one stage, we were bringing about 20 people in private cars. And, other people were willing to help. And we relaunched Iris's Lunch Club in 2006. And at the time, we had about 60-odd people coming, 60-odd members to the Lunch Club. And it was a major operation. I mean, we didn't just stick with one meal. There was kind of 4 choices. It was a major event. We had entertainment, we had trips, and a lot of people were coming in. And also at this time, one of our members was a worker with Dr. Bernardo's, and he kind of brought on a Thursday 3 or 4 of the young people at Dr. Bernardo's in, kind of help to lunch, give them some practical experience of working with other people, with cooking and what have you. And as I said, we got these 2 chefs who were properly trained and everything, and they could teach these young people everything about cooking, and that aspect of it grew in that Dr. Bernardo's, having seen that this worked on a Thursday, they asked if they could partner us. And this is how partnerships develop. And they set up a training centre at Wesley Hall, and we with the 2 cooks left their jobs with the hospital and were employed by Bernardo's. And we had a kind of a fully fledged training kitchen, which was open 5 days a week. And again, we did the pure lunch club on a Thursday, but the other days they opened up as a cafe. And it was really good because we got a lot of intergenerational work. We had a lot of multicultural because we had kind of Muslim children coming in and people. And it was amazing how relationships developed between the older people and some of these young people of a completely different background. It had its downsides at time because some of these kids, not in employment, education or training, some of them were quite troubled, and we had flare-ups from various occasions, throwing stuff across the kitchen and all sorts of things. But generally speaking, it as an intergenerational project, it really works, and both the young people and also the people coming to Lunch Club, I think we got a lot out of it. About 2010, Bernardo's lost the contract for the training kitchen at Wesley Hall, and their money dried up, so they had to pull out more or less at a week's notice. So we were left then again in a predicament of, do we carry on or can we do this on our own bat? By that time, the 2 chefs who've been working with Bernardo's were redundant. They obviously now looking for other jobs, so that they weren't available for us. So we had to find cooks amongst ourselves to do it. So I was charged with doing the puddings. Another of our colleague Jim was charged with doing all the rest of the cooking. And we launched the Lunch Club as it probably now is at that stage. So we had to set up a constitution. We had a management committee. We applied for the council for Lunch Club grant. We had to get all the appropriate policies and procedures in place, which and all the accounting in place, which is quite an onerous task. And that task built, we have to be inspected by environmental health. We had to kind of take on board all the kind of 5-star thing that they've got. So there was quite a burden put on a group of people to kind of take this through. Along with this, we tried to do things. We had trips, and we did activities. We had Tai Chi for a while. We had a young man, a Kenyan Time for God volunteer, who came across to Wesley Hall for a year from Kenya, and he did services for us prior to Lunch Club. And all that was good. And we were always conscious of this multi-generational thing, and how pre-teen and youth worker at Wesley Hall, he had contacts with King Edward's School, and we regularly got 5 or 6 pupils from King Edward's coming to help us. And that was, a blessing to both the kids who were coming, and also to our members, because they really liked having the young people with them. And we also did a lot of work with the university, Sheffield Volunteering. We had university students coming in during term time, and again, they were a breath of fresh air coming in with young people. And we've had, like, twice a year, the netball team came en masse, the netball society from the university, to come, and they spent a day. They cleaned all the cupboards out and washed everything. So it was good. So we were chugging along, and we'd not let this vision of providing food and activities to all the people disappear. So we were, and all this has been quite successful. And so the question was, why a partnership? Well, why did we look to again start partnership with other people? And I think it's just age. Many of us were getting older. We were all perhaps considering easing off. We'd all got more or less grandparent duties. There were kind of outside things pushed on us that we were having to look at. And Lunch Club, it's quite a intense physical thing to do it, putting the tables out, getting the menus, getting the shopping in, the food preparations, cleaning the tables, washing the pots, tidying up. As you get older, these things, well, for us and for me in particular, seem to get, more onerous, and it got harder. As well as, we got all the administrative side of it, with the grants with the council, the monitoring the council grants and everything that. So all that was kind of building up on us. And we realized then that, to carry on, we needed some kind of succession policy. Once we've left, we could just see the thing folding up. And so we had to be sustainable in the longer term. We'd got all the kind of church's policies on board about safeguarding, and the other Methodist thing about safer place. And we discussed with the council and with Voluntary Action Sheffield what we could do. And at this time, I was talking to Neil, and he was looking with his district hat on about what were other Methodist lunch clubs thinking about. Were they facing the same difficulties? And Neil organised a meeting for us, and I think there were about 9 Methodist lunch club churches came together to see if there were any common problems or things that we could do together. I mean, one thing that is always difficult, I think, for lunch clubs is the cooking of the meal, having somebody qualified who can do this. And I still think it's an idea that we could sort out, is having some kind of peripatetic cook that went to different lunch clubs. If you've got lunch clubs at different churches on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, could somebody, I don't know who and how we would pay for it, but appoint a cook who could go around these churches on a weekly basis and do the cooking. That was one of the things that had crossed my mind. But as Neil brought these churches together, MHA communities came along to these meetings, and we started thinking seriously about how we could get involved with them. Alongside this, Reverend Phil Borkett had looked at possibility of working with MHA communities with lunch clubs at Darnell and Victoria at Stafford Road. And it seemed to be that, there was a thing where we could get the expertise of MHA, get their enthusiasm and skills on board with the kind of us oldies in the churches to kind of make the lunch club sustainable. The MHA got grant assistance from the circuit to enable them to look at this. And that work was progressing and it was looking good. And then along came COVID. So everything, really was on the back burner for a couple of years. We were no longer to meet face to face. But, we were just fortunate that we'd had these links with MHA communities at the time, because Shemaine and her colleague Elaine were able to get activity packs together. And we got some funding from the council to enable us to buy these, to pay for these packs. And Elaine got these packs together, and then we kind of circulated them round our members while we're going down lockdown. We were already phoning the members up on a weekly basis, so we didn't lose track of them. So we would have found it very difficult to do that on our own as a lunch club, but with Shemaine and their assistance and MHA communities, we were able to kind of keep lunch club going virtually through COVID. And since last September, we've started kind of meeting back. And over the last 5 months, MHA communities are kind of coming and looking to take over more of what we're doing. So they've now got responsibility for the, what we're going to have, what we should be doing. I mean, we were kind of set in our ways. We were finding it difficult to attract new volunteers, but we were still trying to kind of provide a lunch club that was like we did when we'd got many volunteers and cooks available to us. And what working with Shemaine has enabled us to look at is looking at less labour intensive, more efficient ways of working. This is kind of making volunteering for us a little bit easier. I mean, unfortunately, over the last few weeks, again, we've had illness, and our chef now has given up completely. We've had COVID amongst us all, and so it's been very difficult. But Shemaine's come in. They have transport now. They've been able to get us a minibus. They've had activities. We've had a kind of physiotherapist, like music and movement before lunch club. So we're in this transition, and I think this is, if we start looking at the pitfalls of a partnership, it's this transition period. It's change, because for long periods we couldn't meet. We come back, and then it's change for the members and change for the volunteers, and for new people, it's not a problem to them, because it is what it is. For the people that are there now, it's changing to what it was before COVID, and it's going to take some time to get around it. So it's having the patience and the ability to talk to one another to kind of sort it out. As all the volunteers now, we're in like many of us in our late 70s. And we've kind of got to take our time and pace ourselves. And the social aspects of volunteering is very important to us. So we want to kind of keep that ethos, that we of teamwork and working together. As change, volunteers feel a bit uncertain about what they should be doing and how they should be doing it. Simple things like, because we have, many of us had grandparent duties, we always used to have to take school holidays off. So we had 40 weeks a year doing lunch club. So the summer was a break, and Christmas and half terms were breaks. Working with Shemaine, they're 50 weeks a year. And so we're looking at, how do we, the volunteer team we've got, how do we spread ourselves over 50 weeks instead of the 40 weeks? We've got to look at working more flexibly. so we can overcome that problem. I mean, from our side, and Shemaine will answer this on the whole, we just feel that, a lot of pressure's been put on Shemaine and Elaine themselves. What capacity have got MHA communities have got to kind of keep this going, and it's how we replenish stock. There's all sorts of niggly little things that we can overcome and sort out. But looking at the good bits, and the good bits totally outweigh the practicalities of sorting ourselves out over the next few months, is without a partnership with MHA communities, we'd have closed. We could not have kept going. We couldn't have kept going over COVID. We couldn't have kept going over post-COVID. Shemaine and Elaine have brought a new energy and a new ideas, and it's kind of crucial to the ministry that we've got. I mean, Elaine and Shemaine will say, we're not about church as such, but from Wesley Hall's perspective, this is our ministry to older people, and we very much see that as something that continues. And again, what they enable us to do is kind of concentrate on the kind of interface with the members. They've taken MHA have taken on board providing all the policies and procedures and all the finance and the relationships with the council. So it's stripped all that away, and it's enabled us to do what we wanted to do, which was to talk to people within our community, to offer them food, to work with them, and to look at some of their concerns and worries. So, as I say, we're at an early stage yet, and as COVID kind of delayed us 2 years in doing what we did, but it's a partnership that without, certainly the lunch club at Wesley Hall would not have carried on. And I think for other lunch clubs, I think that they must be equally finding it difficult. And if we, can share experiences and share, problems and solutions, I think that would be very good. So
Stephen, thank you very much. And that is a good note on which to end the sharing of experiences. Thank you, Stephen, for giving us all this information to think about and to share your experience from start to finish. So we're going to put people into 2 breakouts. Neil and I will help facilitate the conversations with you, just to give you an opportunity to think about how a partnership like Stephen's been talking about might help you in your situation. So we don't have very long. It's just an opportunity for you to just have a quick biff of ideas. So we're going to give you around about 6 minutes just to have a quick think together. So Catherine, if you could please put us into breakouts, that would be fantastic. Welcome back, everyone. I'd like to now welcome Shemaine, who's from MHA and is working in partnership with Wesley Hall. So Shemaine, over to you. Thank you.
Hello. I'm not going to introduce myself because she did such a wonderful job. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay. And can everyone see that? You see my screen?
Yeah.
Wonderful. I would love to start this presentation, but I do not know how. Here we go. Wonderful. So, as Sticky said, I'm Shemaine and I'm from MHA Community South Yorkshire and Bassetlaw. Just to give you all a bit of an overview about who we are and what we do if you don't know, I've just got a couple of slides together. So I'll take you through them and then I'll just give you a bit of a run through what it's been like working with Wesley Hall and what we've been up to. So here goes, MHA. So we are an award-winning charity, not to brag, but we have won many awards, providing care, accommodation, support service for older people. We are one of the most well-respected care providers in the sector and amongst the largest charities in Britain, providing services to older people for over 75 years, which is quite incredible when you look back. MHA numbers, so we've got 90 care homes across the country. We've also got 70 retirement living communities and 62 live at home services. Many of these have merged now, so individually it's 62, but many have merged, so forming So it used to be for us Sheffield, Doncaster and Worksop, but we've now formed South Yorkshire and Bassetlaw, so to make it a little bit more efficient due to COVID. But MHA have got care homes, retirement living schemes across the country. They've even got retirement living villages. So if you go up to O'Loughlin, you will find a retirement living village on a lock, with a care home, retirement living scheme, and even MHA property that you can purchase should you wish. Not that I'm plugging them, that's not my job. But yes, that's what happens. So MHA, in the sense of our roots, we are Methodist in our roots. So how the organisation started was way back when somebody donated a house to the Methodist Church, and 6 women over the age of 65 decided that they were going to live together because they'd lost their partners, lost their husbands, and decided actually rather than be on their own, they were going to live together. And as things progressed, more and more houses were donated, the property portfolio expanded, and they ended up starting communities where people could come together or work through care needs or social needs and connect. So that's where it started. We are rooted in Methodism, and while Steve said we're not about the church, as an organisation we can't be about the church, but we are very missionally focused. We have got the same values, the same goals. We want to reach older people, we want to enable people to live later life well, and we always say that it's inspired by Methodist concern, Christian concern, and our values are about respecting each person, and treating them with dignity, nurturing people's body, mind and spirit, whatever that may look like to them, but also inspiring the best in each other. So it's learning from good practice, growing where there's practice that needs to be developed. So it's about really challenging each other and holding ourselves up to those values to be the best we can be. So our 3 main charitable causes is MHA Community. So we obviously have a portfolio of care homes, and that is our income generating arm of the charity. However, these are where we invest into our charitable causes, which where I'm from, MHA Communities. We are one of, I'm going to say this, we're one of the care providers in the country that provide chaplaincy within all of our care homes and spirituality. And we also invest heavily in music therapy for people who are living with dementia, which is quite incredible. I've seen some of the videos. It's something, if you want to explore a bit more, there is some resources. Let me know, drop me an email, I can share that with you. But music therapy is an incredible service and has incredible outcomes as well. So MHA Communities, we've been running for over 25 years. So we've got local schemes. Our aims are to promote independence and wellbeing and connect people socially within their communities. So ideally, our aim is to keep people living at home for as long as possible. So as I said, we've got schemes across the country, and each scheme is unique and tailored to its area of need. And essentially what we try to do is ensure that our services are shaped by the people who use them. So we consult and ask what it is that people want to do and develop services around those wants and needs. It says there, we do all have the same thing in common, that we do want to keep people living healthily and happily for as long as possible in their own accommodation, in their own communities, because we feel like that's where people thrive. So to give you a little bit of an overview of our partnership approach and how it's worked for us at Wesley Hall. So MHA has historically partnered with churches across the country to deliver community services, and quite simply because we do share the same values and ethos, and our work is mission focused, as I've already said. To give you a bit of a history, we've in Doncaster, Sheffield and Worksop, we've been running since 1997, and we've worked with various churches across each area to connect people. Doncaster were largely based in churches, Sheffield largely based in churches. So we've worked very, very well with people to either start services or come in to support deliver services that wouldn't be able to run without our support or would have essentially closed. We've got good experience of working with churches to help them achieve the goal of connecting older people in the community. Wesley Hall, history on Wesley Hall. I think, like Steve said, we joined a meeting that was organised by Neil just to explore the possibilities of how we could potentially connect and how we could work together to make the most of each other's skills and resources. So I think the question was why Wesley Hall, and I think what Steve said, we were looking at Darnall and we're also looking at Victoria, and those things are very much still on the agenda. It's just waiting to have the right staff member in post so we can deliver that. We are trying to recruit at the minute, but we started having the conversation. I think the really good thing with Wesley Hall, we started having the conversation and we started building a really good relationship, and we started talking about the things that we both wanted to achieve, and actually where we felt we could add value. And Wesley Hall were able to say this is where we needed support, and actually we fit really well together in terms of what we could offer. So the volunteers were saying essentially to us that actually they'd like to step back a little bit and enjoy the volunteering and let someone else take the pressure of the paperwork, the finances, the funding applications, the health and safety. You all know what that looks like if you work in churches. You know it can be quite onerous at times. So somebody to take the stress off, but also someone to come in and actually let's really look at how we're running things. Can we do it in a way that makes things A, easier on volunteers, B, cost effective, C, financially sustainable? And this is what we do day in, day out. We look at how we're running activities and we want to make sure that they are fit for the future. And we do that in a number of ways by looking at the finance, making sure that we're budgeting properly so that we know that lunch club or service, whatever it might be, is going to be there long term. You know, when we've gone, that's the idea, that we can build something that will last. So yeah, I think we established that we shared similar values, and then we also have this willingness to learn from each other, and we didn't want to come in and take over. I was very aware, as Steve says, this lunch club has been going quite some time, so they really are the experts, and we really wanted to come in and learn from them and just, you know, not go in all guns blazing, just step back, learn, understand how it works, then gently go on a journey of suggesting how we may be able to help and make things a little bit easier. So as Steve says, we are in the initial transitional phase, I would say. We've been in since September. Elaine's been on the ground in the group since September, learning, but we've started to develop a little bit of a plan of how we're going to take things forward by it in a slightly different structure, because Jim is an amazing cook and he has created some incredible meals, but to be able for the volunteers to take a bit of a step back and enjoy the volunteer journey a little bit more, it's about looking at actually what can we do to provide something of the same quality that the members are still getting the same enjoyment for less kind of energy, less time. And that's what we're trying to do at the minute. So we're basically coming in each week and showing everybody, like, this is what we do at our groups and it works quite well, and just testing to see how it's received. There's always something to navigate. People don't like change, as we know, you know, it is difficult. Change is difficult. And actually some people are, well, why are we doing this? Because we've done this for so long and it's worked. And actually a lot of times it's right. If it's not broken, you don't need to fix it. But there are times when we can definitely step back and learn from each other and be more open-minded and just like kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I think it's just change. I think when Steve was saying these are the little niggly bits, and they're just tiny, they're just small things. And as I said to Steve, nothing's insurmountable. It's about us actually just unpicking it and going, right, this is what we need. So what we're looking to do is add a bit of a structure to give people the resilience to take a bit of time off. Like they said, we've gone from 42 weeks to 50 weeks a year. So it's about giving people that time where they can take time back, basically. And also, you know, a lot of the things Wesley Hall was saying was that we need more volunteers. It's actually quite a lot of volunteers. We've got like 15. So it's actually, how do we use those volunteers effectively rather than everyone being there on the same days? Is something we can do in terms of like a rota system. So it's working really well in the sense that I think we're building really great relationships. We're on the same page. We're introducing activities, as Steve says. We're planning our first trip this year. So we're asking the members what it is that they want to do. And we're trying to build a service that we know that they'll enjoy. I think we've work really hard in building relationships and, you know, being open to have the difficult conversations, because sometimes they do occur. And I think that's gone really well. Like, I think if that's one of the strengths that we've got, I think it's the relationships that we've built with each other and the openness that we've built. What would I say that you need to know working with a partner? So if you are going to work with a partner, a different organisation coming in, you are going to have to open your mind to doing things differently, 100%, because they will all operate in a different way. Wesley Hall were doing the same things that we do, we just do them in a different way. So we just got different ways of recording things. So they're already doing certain things. It's just little tweaks that you need to make so it's kind of, it works for your organisation. So it is going to be a different way of operating. So I think it's about going in with an open mind and the openness and willingness to learn from each other. I think communication is essential, absolutely essential. If it's in your head, say it. Say it, take the person to one side, have a chat. If it's something, if there's any worries or concerns, we just need, I think it's important to be able to say it. Sometimes we've had little things in the back where people are going, oh, they're taking over. And we're like, no, just come and have the conversation. If there's something you're worried about, we can talk about it and we can give you the information that will help you feel better about the situation. So yeah, I would say communication is essential. And also keep sharing ideas and best practice. I think that's really, really important. So like I've said from the start, a lot of the volunteers at Wesley Hall have been there for a very long time and we've got a lot of expertise. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, we want to harness the great work that they've done. So rather than invent a whole new menu, can we look at their menu and simplify it? Is there something, you know, let's just keep sharing these different ideas, trips, where do you want to go, activities. It's about how we facilitate that together as a group. But yeah, I think the other thing I would say is that no two partnerships look the same. Everyone will look different. In some ways we've gone in to partnerships and we've been in and taken over lunch groups. In other ways we've gone in and partnered and worked alongside groups to enable them to do what they need to do. So it can take many forms, different formats. And I think, you know, I think there's some great things to be learned from both sides. So I would actively encourage you to go out and seek that support if it's something that you're looking for, because it just adds greater value and resilience to what you offer. And if you align with similar values, I think it's something that can be almost a pot of gold for the people using the services. So that's me.
Thank you so much, Charmaine. That's most enlightening. Thank you very much. So we're just going to go into facilitated breakouts, and I'd like you to think about who you might approach to help you. So I'd just like to open the floor for a few moments. If anybody has any questions, either general questions or questions particularly for Charmaine. I think, has Stephen gone now? I knew he was only able to stop for a wee while. So if you have any questions for Charmaine, if you are able to, please use your raise hand function, which will bring you to the top of the screen and we can see then that you have a question if you can. Otherwise, raise your hand and Neil will keep an eye out for your sweaty paw being raised on screen.
I've got a sweaty paw.
Go ahead, David.
Because I'm failing to find my raised hand.
Don't worry.
Siggy's suggestion, Charmaine, I'm based in York.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any colleagues from MHA communities that are local to me?
So not necessarily MHA communities, but we have got a retirement living scheme in York called Field Court.
Yes, Field Court. Yeah.
You know, a Field Court. So there's potential connections there, depending on what you wanted to explore or do. We were actually there yesterday, surprisingly. So we do head over that way. The manager, Kerry, is very, very nice and open to exploring, you know, opportunities of perhaps, whether it's venue, whether it's, you know, how you work together. And even from afar, it might be something I can support on or lead you to the right person if you've got something in mind.
Okay, thank you. I'll follow that one up.
Okay.
David, if you want to put your email in the chat and then Charmaine can pick it up. and then you can then get in contact. Would that be helpful?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
Um,
Any more questions from anyone? I have to say, I've had some really good conversations with people, so there is clearly a lot of people out there who are, well, certainly now are thinking about how they might partner with others.
I just,
Okay.
I think this is kind of more of an observation that was just kind of starting to emerge from our group as we were running out of time, was that the importance of when we're thinking about partnerships, not just thinking as the church being the host, and it's not all about what things do we do in our building, but yeah, just those opportunities for what it means to turn those partnerships around, and kind of how do we engage with other organisations or approach other organisations beyond ourselves. I don't know if you've got experience, Shemaine, of what it's like to partner with people in different contexts, because I think not everything you do is in a church building. Is that right? Kind of, does that change dynamics or?
Not at all, not at all. So not everything is in the church building, as you say. We do community centres across MHA. There's a variety of different things going on. We do run things within retirement living schemes. So we've got Southcroft in Sheffield, where it's coffee morning there, a love to move session. So I think it's just about thinking outside the box and saying, actually, we want to do something. Does it really matter where we do it? Like you say, it probably doesn't, as long as we're doing it together, and adding, more resilience and wealth to what we can offer. So to what we do, sorry. Yeah, but we do a variety of different things in different settings. So some things we do, like community walks, walking for health. We're even online. So we even run virtual social groups, something we started through lockdown. So I don't think the setting really matters. I just think it's about the will. If people have got the will, wherever you are, you can pull something together. So whether it would be in one of our retirement living schemes or one of our care homes, something we're working quite strongly on at the minute as an organisation is collaborative communities. And actually, how do we use the resources that we've got as an organisation, such as care homes, to bring people in, to make it a space for the community to use, but also bring people who are in the care homes out into community. So it's about creating, that wraparound service for people. So I think it can look however you want it to look, and I think that's the beauty of it. So I think we're moving away from the old model of a lunch club, and not that there's anything wrong with the lunch club, but I think the people that are coming through for services now want something a little bit different. My mum, who is 60, would come and cook at a lunch club, volunteer, but she wouldn't necessarily attend one. So we're looking at actually what is it that we can do to engage with this younger cohort of people that are coming through, and actually finding at the minute that's hobby-based, skill-based, looking around green care, just looking at what floats people's boat and building a service around that. Actually looking at where are the gaps. Is there space for yoga group? Is there space for something else? Just trying to be creative, thinking outside the box. The latest idea, really excited about this one, I want to do a Northern Soul afternoon, but why not? If it's going to connect people and bring people together, bring joy, laughter, and create the opportunity for people to come together over shared interest and alleviate some social isolation whilst we're on with it, well, why not? So I'd just encourage you, if you've got an idea, run with it.
That's great advice, Shemaine. Thank you very much. And yes, as people get younger, their tastes and interests are going to change. People might want singles clubs. No reason why you shouldn't run a singles club or a speed dating night. People get lonely. Anything, if that's what people want, have a think about it. But thank you very much, Shemaine. That's been absolutely great. And if any of you have further questions, you are welcome to send them to myself, to Neil, or to Catherine at Sheffield District Office, and we'll do our best to help you out. So I would like to close now. I'm going to hand over to Neil for our closing devotions, and thank you so much for coming. I hope it's been helpful for you.
unmute myself. Thanks very much, Siggy, and thanks very much for joining us this afternoon, everyone. I hope you found the series of sessions that we've done over the last few months helpful. We're at a place where we find ourselves in a time of change, I think, at the moment, in terms of what we do with these webinars. We've did one set of topics and one particular way of working whilst we were all locked at home and under lockdown and constrained in what we could do and having to learn new ways of doing things. We've felt that we ought to be spending this sort of last few months helping people to think forward and start planting the seeds and the tools ready for it as whatever we emerge into, that people feel they've got some thinking that they can go back to as new opportunities start to emerge. We're very aware that all of you here are here and have taken enormous sacrifice to make time out of busy lives. So we're trying to think quite carefully about, do we keep running these? Do we do something different? Would it be helpful to meet up face to face? Is it important to have things like this online? Or is something else important? I'm not going to entertain a large discussion now because we're out of time, but you'll get a feedback email coming out from Catherine fairly soon in the next few days, asking any comments on the webinar. We'll also take the opportunity to ask what will be helpful for you as well. We absolutely see our role as facilitating and providing you with the support that you need for your ministry. So if you think there's something that's useful that we could be doing together, thanks to Steve and Shemaine for referencing earlier on a couple of conversations that felt the right thing to do, what must be about 4 years ago now, and from that a new partnership and a couple of new partnerships have flowed. It's very much whatever will be helpful for you, we will look for find a way to make that happen, because that's what we're all about. So please do respond to that feedback when it comes through, and we're all ears as to what will be most useful as we move into a new season and a new chapter for all of us. So thanks very much for your time this afternoon. I will finish with a prayer and then we will let you go into the rest of your afternoon. So let's pray. Lord God, we thank you for what we've heard this afternoon. We thank you for stories told. We thank you for experiences shared. We thank you for learning and for wisdom. Pray for each of the pieces of work and each of the ministries and each of the congregations and churches and communities represented on this call. And we pray as well for the people that we do that ministry with. We pray for our partner organisations, and we pray for all of the people who engage with the things that we play a role in offering. We pray that none of this will be about us being in charge, but it will all be about how we can work together to join in with others, and most importantly, to join in with you and what you are doing in the world around us already. Amen. Thanks very much, everyone, and wish you a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.